What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Smart Money Sundays. Hope everyone is doing very, very well and ready for a new week in the markets. All right, so we're going to start off as usual on EURUSD and then touch upon GBPUSD and AUDUSD for today's video. All right, and so again, I kind of want to focus on a higher time frame perspective. Okay, so on EURUSD, obviously we had the long block of consolidation for many, many weeks, even a couple of years, before we had the run on liquidity and the break of structure expansionary move. Obviously, the contraction, the retracement into discount, filled up a gap. There was a nice sponsor candle here with an explosive move come COVID. All right, so we had the manipulation, the buy to sell to buy, and the expansionary move again. I think ultimately our objective here will be this old high. Obviously, currently we are experiencing a higher time frame retracement. Okay, but even from a fundamental perspective, I do believe the US dollar will die, pushing EURUSD up. Okay, and so right now still experiencing that higher time frame retracement. Really, the last couple of weeks have been some indecision. Okay, and so right now its price is kind of trapped, and I think it would be kind of silly to play EURUSD as it currently stands, and you'll see in a second on the lower time frames. Okay, but actually, before I move down, let's kind of talk about higher time frame objectives here. All right, on EU, you can see a very small gap from May of 2020. And typically what we'll see is when we have these gaps, price will often be magnetized back to those gaps and have somewhat of a sensitivity to those areas of price. Okay, and so kind of the first higher time frame area I'm looking at is going to be this old gap where I do expect sensitivity at 1.11. And then ultimately, if we can kind of push down further into this imbalance, we have this nice inefficiency at 1.101. Okay, and so I'm looking at achieving most definitely this objective, but also ultimately I think this would be the ideal discount to be looking for higher time frame than swings back up to the upside in order to target our old high that was created from this expansionary move. Okay. So at the moment, we can go down now to the kind of lower time frames. I do believe this kind of reaccumulation here is going to be a draw on liquidity. Obviously, this rests above that gap from the weekly time frame and above our ultimate objective here of 1.1. Okay, but for the here and now, obviously we had somewhat of a kind of erratic week. Okay, a significant wick high, a significant wick low. I believe both of these are liquidity pools. Okay, so we're looking to run out both sets of high and low. Okay, and ideally, as we're in a downtrend at the moment, we obviously want to be looking to sell into liquidity lows. Okay, so ideally we would be looking for a run possibly on the old high, and we would want to get net short again above the prior week's high. Okay, and then we can go ahead and look for distribution to take it down into our higher time frame objectives. Okay, I'd like us to see a run against trend for premium, and then we can sell off down into our higher time frame levels. Okay, and so dropping down to the 12-hour, I actually think this would be a nice level. If we can make a run up there, we can kind of continue to flag here, run up above our previous week's high. As you can see, we traded through this supply here. So we kind of invalidated this up close candle here. Okay, with this wick. But I still think that this is going to be a draw on liquidity. Ideally, like I said, ideally we would get above the previous week's high and into this kind of inefficiency, this doji candlestick, for looking for a very nice sell back down into our higher time frame levels. Okay, and so that's what I'd like to see with EU. If that doesn't happen, that's okay. We will adjust and trade accordingly based upon our time and price principles. Okay, so just to reiterate, we have liquidity. We have liquidity. Ultimately, in a downtrend, we would expect this low to be taken out. However, this was a very, very strong move. Hopping down even to the 1 hour time frame, I believe it was when Jay Powell was speaking. It was a very strong move that did run out some lows here. And so I would naturally potentially expect another run up, just given the nature of the volume within this candlestick and the breadth of price that it covered, almost 150 pips in 1 hourly candle. Okay, so it would be very, very nice, like I said, if we could leave this low intact for now. Go ahead and run the high. We want to be sellers above old highs, and then get into that 12-hour candlestick that I mentioned earlier before looking for distribution and ultimate final sell-off for an extension back down to the downside. Okay, and it would almost kind of look like somewhat of an inverse head and shoulders, fake out the neckline, get everyone to buy it on the retest, and then just plummet again. Okay, so kind of thinking outside the box here, but this is really what I'd like to see is us to get above. We really want to be selling above last week's high, in my opinion. All right, and so that's it for EU, and we'll stick to the higher time frames kind of on our final two pairs for the day. Okay, and so GU obviously doing the same thing as EU. The dollar has been surprisingly strong. But from a technical perspective on the higher time frames, we did need that retracement after these massive rallies for the last year. Okay, and so GU, what I'd like to see ultimately is this region of price I have outlined here. And I like this area because not only because we have our weekly down close candle prior to a massive move to the upside, but it's also a nice level of sensitivity. Okay, you can see this up close candlestick, the manipulation, the buy to sell. Okay, and so obviously this is somewhat of an institutional price point, but this is the demand here that traded into our supply, but that invalidated our supply. Okay, so the accumulation here is what invalidated this supply, this high, creating our new high. So naturally we'd like to come down and account for this region of price. Okay, and that comes in around 1.3. Go figure. Nice round level figure for GBPUSD. So I'd really like to see that. Now, in terms of a higher time frame level, to sell it down into here, obviously on the weekly, I have marked up this region 1.3400 into 1.341. A big wick low, obviously weekly up close candle. If we can dig up into this, potentially mimicking EU, I'd really like to get a final sell down into our higher time frame level. Okay, so not much else to say here on GU. Like I said at the beginning, we kind of want to stick to the higher time frames for this, but you have my POIs. Continue to look for sells down into our higher time frame levels, okay, because momentum is very, very strong on all of these dollar pairs at the moment, and we want to be riding that wave until price tells us otherwise, until we get down into significant higher time frame levels. All right, so if we can get that pop up on GU just like we're looking for on EU, that would be fantastic. All right, so final pair for today. Again, higher time frame perspective, and this one's really been on a tear. Okay, Aussie dollar. And now this one probably faked a lot of people out. Obviously, we created that higher high, higher low, higher high. I'm sure a lot of people were looking at this level, for another higher high, higher low, higher high. That did not happen. What ended up happening was this was just simply an ABC retracement, and we have had a significant unidirectional swing again to the downside. All right. Now, this could have confused you. However, if you looked at it from this perspective on the weekly time frame, this massive rally Have we even traded into equilibrium or discount? No, we have not. Okay, I can pull our fib, and you can see we haven't even traded into the 50%. Okay, so technically higher time frame, we're still very, very bullish. We're just experiencing a lower time frame per se retracement at the moment. Okay, and so higher time frame levels on this one. For AU, we're looking at this region of price highlighted. Okay, 0.6700, I think, is going to be a very key level for AU. Okay, and so until then, again, just like EU and GU, we can look to be selling this thing. Now, if we hop down to the daily or even weekly, you can see a weekly fib play in action. We haven't even met our negative 27. Okay, so swing to the downside, retracement into the 50%. We had supply here, looking to trade at least down into this negative 27 before we see some type of significant pullback. Okay, so maybe we have an intra-week retracement, maybe to test this quote-unquote support, continue on down into that negative 27. Maybe then we will have a significant retracement, and then ultimately our 6,700 level, I do believe we will meet. Okay, so this is our perspective on AUDUSD as well as EU and GU. I really hope you mark these levels off, because the higher time frame, and I feel like a lot of people, it's very hard to step back sometimes and take in the higher time frames. You might be sitting on a 10-minute, 15-minute chart, not understanding why price is doing what it's doing. So it's always good to get that fresh perspective, especially on a Sunday at the beginning of the week, and soak in what's actually happening from a higher perspective. Okay, and then trade in that direction that the higher time frame is giving you on the lower time frames. Okay, and so something like AU, honestly, this thing is on such a tear that I wouldn't be surprised if we simply retraced into this level and then died down into that negative 27. Okay, this could be a very, very simple trade, time and price allowing. Okay, but you get my point. All right, higher time frame, it's so key, especially on the weekends and oftentimes during the week when I'm doing analysis for our members. We will be sitting on that 4-hour, daily 4-hour, 1 hour, and on down to the 1 minute, but especially on the weekends. And I feel like we've gotten away from it somewhat, but it's especially good to be really focusing on the higher time frames on the weekends so that you understand what's going on intraday during the week. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. If you'd like to join the community, give us a message. Telegram is @ArielFX Trading. We'd be happy to get you involved in our VIP community or even with our courses, Smart Money course, Wyckoff course, and Supply and Demand course. All right, have a wonderful week trading, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.